So I got asked the question of what is grief. So there's 5 stages of grief that are well written, but it's anger, shock, denial, depression, and acceptance. With grief, though, people often think there's like a stage, like you start with shock, then move to denial, to depression, to anger, to acceptance. And the reality is that's not how it works. Some people start at acceptance, they start at shock, they start at anger. It's very individualistic for each person. And then people think that grief is something that you work through and then you're done. And the reality is that's not true at all. Grief comes and goes. It often reignites at anniversaries of losses, can be triggered by watching someone go through the same experience you went through, or hearing about something on the news that connected to your own grief process. So it's never completely over. Some people, it can be done and they move on, but I just want people to know that that's not always true. The important thing with grief is to recognize what you need. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be in denial. It's okay to be shocked. It's important to identify what your needs are during the time and figure out who can support you in meeting those needs. So if you need connection, identifying the people who can meet you there. If you need space, communicating that with others, but allowing them to check in every so often to make sure you're okay. A lot of people don't know what to do when someone's in grief. What do you say? How do you support them? And I think what's important is to be direct and ask them. Acknowledge, like, hey, I get you're going through a hard time. I want to do what feels best for you. What does supporting you right now look like? And if they answer, I don't know, that's when you can give some examples of what you would need if you were in their shoes. Because sometimes the brain is just, it's stopped, it's stunted, and it doesn't know what it needs. So you can say, hey, if I was in your shoes, I'd want to bring you a meal. Is it okay if I make you a meal? If I was in your shoes, I just want someone to sit with me. Can I just sit with you? You can ask the person, and if they're willing to do it, that's how you can support them. So just some tips if you know someone who's grieving, going through your own grief process. It's hard to grieve on your own. Finding community, finding ways to get back to your daily routine, help you heal, and talking about it and processing the stages you're at is really important and key. What questions do you have about grief? What's been your experience? I'm happy to hear your questions or anything else you want more input on.